Yes. Alrighty. So, yeah, one of my friends was watching this on YouTube and they
Yes.
didn't know that I was actually in the room with other people. So, what I like to sometimes say is there's at least one other person in my Zoom room. And so, if I'm talking to somebody, it might be you in TV land, but it might be the person in my Zoom room or the people. All right, so we're going to start today. Um, I feel like one of the big things to notice with with somatics and with inquiry practice and with movement are sort of the tension patterns that come into us. And so I was talking earlier today when I taught my exercise class about free flow and bound flow, and also about growing and shrinking with the breath. And so I feel like when we're inhaling and there's this expansion outward, and then we're exhaling and coming kind of back into ourselves. Like there's parts of our muscles that are just naturally working. We don't need to think about them, right? They're working with our autonomic nervous system, the parts of our body that we don't have to think about happening for it to happen, like our heartbeat, our breath, our digestion. There's a lot of movement within our body that's going to just be happening on its own, like the little system chugging away. And then there's movement where we are, contracting or expanding. So I kind of want to play with these two ideas with the breath and with a small amount of movement of just getting bigger on the inhale and then kind of sinking in on the exhale. In the Laban work, we might talk about growing and shrinking on this in this three-dimensional way, but we could talk lengthening and shortening, getting taller and then getting shorter or getting wider, getting narrower, and then bulging and hollowing in the front back space. So let's just play with each of those for a few breaths. You can do this eyes open or eyes closed. Just let's go with first with just the lengthening and shortening so that as you're lengthening, you're opening, expanding, getting taller. And as you're shortening, you're just coming back into yourself. So it's not like a defeated shortening. It's like just a resting into it. So there's this natural sort of growing and shrinking, this natural lengthening and shortening. And you can add a little teeny bit of extra into it. So maybe there's a little teeny bit of effort into that growing and then releasing and shrinking, or a little teeny bit of effort into your shrinking. So just finding this idea again with the vertical. Inhaling very long and exhaling, sinking into yourself. It could be so micro and tiny, or it could be pretty big, whatever is working for you. Just working with that up and down. There may be side-sideness happening, there may be forward, backward, but really focus as much as you can on just that vertical lengthening in two directions and then coming back into yourself. So even as your head is going up, your tail is going down, and then you're coming back towards center. You can start to slow the exhale a little bit, maybe slowing the inhale as well. And the inhale, it's healthier for us to inhale through our noses, but the exhale can either come out of your nose or your mouth, whatever feels good to you. And it could just be growing and lengthening in your imagination, shortening in your imagination. You could stay pretty still and have this just imagination growing and shrinking. And then let's move it into the widening and narrowing. So you could even use your hands. Imagine getting wider and then narrowing back in. Widening, opening, narrowing back in. And if you feel like going big, you could really go out into your width, into the horizontal, and bring it back in. Or you could just keep it small, just a little small amount. Rib cage, pelvis, everything just opening out to the sides, opening into the width, taking up space in your body. Not trying to be tiny, not trying to be small, but allowing your body to have these flows of shaping with size and expansion. And it may be sort of effortful to do this. There may be some work to doing the breath like that. If you want to make it really simple, you can just do it in your imagination. We're awakening the lungs and the breath and the tissue into that horizontal dimension, side, or even, yeah, opening it out, bringing it back in. Widening into the back body as well as the front body. So it's not just happening in one part, it's the whole thing going wider. And one of these may feel easier, like we can play with them and start to go, oh yeah, I do that. Oh, I don't do that very much. No judgment. It's all okay. We're just learning and seeing what's happening. So I'm switching already to the front back breath. So if I was sideways, I would be trying to breathe into my depth in the front and the back so that my whole body is moving forward and backward and then coming back into itself. And the word bulging sounds really funny to me, but we are sort of bulging out the whole front back and then hollowing back into ourselves. Breathing into the depth of our body. Forward, backward. And as you're breathing into that depth, so breathing into the front and the back space, sometimes we see people that like really feel it, it's all hanging out in the front. Feel as if it's also all hanging out in the back. So we're having this depth, forward, backwardness in our body. We can imagine what is behind us, what came before, and what's in front of us is all this realm of possibility. And we can breathe into that, breathing into that forward, backward space. And in the middle, here we are. We're just right here, right now, in this moment. And I can make more effort to do this breath bigger, or I can make it softer and easier, just happening in my imagination or a small level in my body. And as I come in on that exhale, what I'm starting to notice is it's almost like this vacuum that just draws me right back in. So on my inhale out, I'm starting to let my whole body grow and shrink. So it's this big, we could imagine ourselves like a ball. The whole sphere is expanding and then coming back into itself, like the natural pulsing energy of life just connected to our breath. And we can do it on an imagination level, or we can do it with our body, reaching out on the inhale and then coming back in on the exhale. Anything that feels good and interesting to you is the way to do it. So if you're having a hard time accessing it on the small level, try going bigger. And if you're having a hard time feeling into it bigger, like no, I don't know. It will work if you're having a hard time on the small level to go bigger, to start to feel it. And then once you feel that, then you can kind of let it come back into itself. Yeah, so what happens for me, I feel like when I start to do somatic practices and like when I actually start to go in and feel into myself, is it's almost like this like suction pulls me in. And it usually pulls me back too. So it's like, and so yeah, as I start to get into this breath, it becomes very delicious to go into that inner place where I'm coming into myself. So this natural growing and shrinking with the breath. And as we're in this natural growing and shrinking with the breath, imagining the fluidity and the flow of energy in our inside our body, having these dynamics of like sort of exertion and then recuperation. Something's happening, we're doing something, and then, oh, we're just letting things go. So there's this efforting and then this total release. And the efforting might just be on the effort to take in breath or the effort to exhale breath. But just noticing the two things like, oh, this feels so relaxed and easy, or now I kind of feel like I'm doing something. I'm making something happen. All the while, we're allowing in micro movement, we're allowing in any kind of juiciness or yumminess that is coming in. If I take it down to a really subtle level, I start to feel my heartbeat and some of the different flows of my body. So coming into a more subtle sensation, there are different patterns of movement, patterns of life force that are moving through me that I can tune into that feel really good. Inviting in any kind of movement, almost like you're floating in a very gentle pool of water and maybe a small wave comes and moves you. So something very comfortable and comforting. Maybe just a warm bath and then, ooh, there's a little wave or a jacuzzi jet massaging your back, whatever it is, some kind of idea of letting the water in your body have this life force and this capacity to move. As we continue to play with growing and shrinking, getting bigger, getting smaller, yeah, so I'm going to start to add a non-vocalized, like like ooh sound without the ooh. So it's like, and if I go in with that, for me, it's very interesting to feel into the movement that that brings into my body, and also to the sound from the inside of my body of what that that breath sounds like and feels like. So inviting that in. You can do this laying down. You can do it standing up. You can do it any way that feels comfortable. You can definitely do it with green eggs and ham. So listen in and give yourself permission to have your own play with this, your own experience. And if you need resting breaths at any time, just take resting breaths. I'm just allowing my own body to play in the landscape or the soundscape of the noise that I'm hearing in my head. And it's also the sensation of that breath. You can play with letting out almost no breath as you make the sound, so it's just going to last for a long time, or really letting out a lot of breath, which will shorten the amount of exhale. But playing in and listening into what feels good with that, like what's interesting, how does this become more fascinating for me, more alive for me? I'm going to take it off out of seated for a little while. And I think I'm going to add the sound. So that sound kind of has like a forward backwardness to it, going to the sagittal. Even if I move out of the sagittal with my movement, has kind of a horizontal side side. It's like the big hissy smile, finding that sideness, and then the up downness. And also, like, if we play with those different sounds and give our face freedom to really move and create shape and space, it can open up a lot of things in our brains and heads and bodies. So that's the invitation, to play with those three sounds, the ooh, let your face do whatever feels good while you're in that play. Let your whole body do whatever feels good. So this is just an entrance. Like, there's so many doors into playing in movement or in somatics or inquiring in. And it's nice to walk in through different doors. And one of the beauties with this type of work that I find is that even if I walk in the same door tomorrow, everything will have changed inside that room. So we're not looking to find some place we've been before necessarily. We're just looking to see what's really happening right now. And is there anything I can let go of here? You can use that growing and shrinking with the breath also, even as we do these long extended exhales. You could even just play with your hands growing and shrinking, just radiating out and coming back in. Like, any part of your body can do this. Sometimes we talk about cellular breathing. So imagining the cells having that same thing as they fill up, as they inhale, and then as they exhale and let go. Right? Cells are taking in oxygen. And then, of course, in yoga or in many movement systems, there's the idea of really full body breathing. So letting go of whatever kind of corseting you've been holding on to, just let that corset fall away and allow yourself the freedom and the expanse of your body, of your animal body, non-judgmental. Space to take up space and be in space and make sound. Also, even space to come into yourself so that we can move out and away and we can come back in. We can rest deep, deep inside of ourselves within our own experience. Yeah, somehow these sounds always just remind me of like the water's edge, like a watery cave on the coast of England or Wales or something like Cornwall, where the water is bashing in. And then I can, like, with the sounds of the floor, sometimes I hear like the ropes or the creakiness. And to me, that's like just spacious, magical, and freeing. So any kind of imagery that comes in for you, invite that in and let your body just, images come, images go, things happen. Let yourself move with the magic of whatever's going on for your reality in the moment. If it gets uncomfortable and scary, just calm down for a little while and take a look around. Open back up into the outer world.
inviting your sort of neurology to start to understand what is growing, what is shrinking, what is holding, what is letting go, like what is it for you, so that when you're out in the world, you can start to go, oh, I'm feeling tense, or this is uncomfortable, or this feels really good, this is really relaxing. But being able to bring the things that you're starting to learn about and notice, or maybe you've got a long experience of this in your life, but starting to bring that into the world, like when you notice sensations in your body, is this something that I want more of? Or is this something I want less of? Right? Or just being able to express it like, this is awkward, this is uncomfortable, or I really am not feeling okay about what's going on. Like that's one of the beauties of doing this work is you start to really know what's okay and what's not okay because your body's speaking to you all the time. I think that's one reason why you have to be at a certain level of awareness of yourself and okayness with yourself to want to go into this territory. If we want to start to open up to new patterning, then we want to start to notice when we're in the old pattern. So if you become like enthralled with a movement that you keep repeating, shift it to something different, right? Moving towards novelty, moving towards improvisation, to what hasn't been seen or done before. And it could just be subtly different, or it could be vastly different. You can slow things down, speed them up, change your relationship to gravity, anything that works. Or even pause, wait. Wait for the impulse from your own body. And if it's drifted away, come back to the idea of growing and shrinking with the breath, even on a tiny little subtle level or a really big level. Like it could be big movement radiating out and coming back in. Or it could be very small. You can let go of the idea of being a human and just be a moving, breathing, fluid system, pouring yourself around. I'm going to give its music, which will be Jeff Gersh again. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do something totally different. We're going to go with music that actually has lyrics. Yay! It's Anthony, it's tonus, but it's music that's never been released. So we'll play with this. It's going to be a vibe.
What sunny day, gentle hours before you went away. Your sweetest smile stay a while, but you've gone away. Oh, I miss you, dear, though you're still here in my reverie. But it can never be, we shall never meet, our love passed away.
Oh, it should go to one more. So, yeah, there's one more piece of music. That's another like 4 minutes. It's different to move to music that has words. Often it's like nice to have no words, but these ones are cool too. letting that come into a close. Those are two sort of downery songs that are, one's called That Sunny Day and the other one's Lady Emptiness. But I feel like Lady Emptiness is particularly appropriate for October, for Halloween and darkness. So that was that. People in TV land, you can like and subscribe. That would be helpful. Consider supporting me on Patreon.